Hello, and welcome to the Sound Up Seattle podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Seattle and Washington sports. I'm your host, Tyler Cartwright, joined as always by my co-host,
John Carey.
And we are here today breaking down the Mariners, and it's currently Tuesday. We're recording this a day early, so we haven't finished the full White Sox series. That game's also in a delay tonight, so we might not even see it until later, but it's Tuesday, so we're going to talk mainly about this Padres series and, give our Floaters and Flounderers, talk a little bit about this rotation and what's been good through the last week or so. And then we're going to get into a little Storm, and if we have some time, a little Seahawks at the end. We will see how we're doing. Anything to say before we get started, John?
No, excited. A fun Mariners week, obviously, and then a lot of sports to touch on this week. So a classic full week for your Sound Up boys. Let's go.
All right, here is some Coyote Picnic. All right, my friend, break it down for me. How have you been feeling since we last spoke? I think that was the end of the Yankees series, if I'm not mistaken, right? We had just lost 3-2, and since then, we have won 4 straight games. We're feeling good. How are you feeling?
Feeling very good, yeah. They went on that just awesome stretch where they won 9 series in a row, and then getting swept by the Jays and losing to the Yankees. It was just kind of like a reset. These things happen. Nobody wins every series in a season. So it was just, it was coming out of that. Padres are a good team, and it was just like, okay, are we going to get rolling again, or is this going to be a slump? What is this? And in my opinion, this is probably the most encouraging 4-game stretch of the Mariners season so far. Dominant is a light description for what's happened. Over the last 4 games, we've allowed 4 total runs while scoring a minimum of 4 runs in all 4 of those games. So just complete dominance of the Padres, and then a dominant first win against the White Sox. It's the pitching, it's the offense, it's everything. So I feel great, fantastic.
Yeah, and that even, in my opinion, that even goes into the Yankees' final 2 games, only giving up 1 run in that second game of that series, and only giving up 3, and the second or the last 2 runs of those 3 were relief pitchers that just gave up a home run. So it's not like we've done anything crazy. Those are just mistakes that were made. I think the starting pitching has been something that we can maybe touch on and talk about a lot over this last week or so. But I do want to just touch on just kind of the AL West in general, right? We had slumped a little bit and gotten back to within, I think, half a game of I think it was the Rangers or the Astros at one point. And now we're a full 2.5 games up. We're looking at 27-19 on the season. It really feels good to just have gotten back on the horse after a little bit of a tough stretch. And I think that's the kind of thing that as Mariners fans, we're not necessarily used to. We're used to the ebbs and flows, but it's like, if this team is really good, if a baseball team is really good, they're not going to go through those slumps where they're going to lose 4 or 5 series in a row. That just doesn't happen if they're a good team. And so to see the Mariners be like, okay, hey, we can pick this up. The San Diego Padres are a good team. They're not great, but they're good enough that maybe we should have only gotten 2 wins. But the fact that we swept them, we're on to the White Sox, who are one of the worst teams in baseball, and we've got another series against a team. I don't remember who's after this. Let me look.
We got Houston after this. We got a 4-game stand with the Astros, which is great timing, in my opinion, to be getting 4 against the team currently second in our division. I love coming off, hopefully, 2 series sweeps, rolling up against the Astros. So that's great. And just a note, White Sox, yeah, they are one of the worst teams in baseball. I do think they can be low-key scrappy, but they are. That's where they belong. Padres, we knocked them out of first in the NL West. They were ahead of the Dodgers before they ran into us. So I know they may not have the big names that a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees have, but Padres are statistically one of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah, I just think the Padres have been kind of on a hot streak. I don't think they're one of the better teams in that division. But I agree with you. They're good to great, and I don't think we can discredit that series at all. That Houston series is big. George Kirby's supposed to come back on the 22nd of May, so that he could come in and slot right in there. We'll probably have him fit somewhere in that series if he's going to make it back in time. So that's exciting. I also think we're supposed to see Logan and Bryce back sometime in the next week or so. We'll see how they actually decide to rehab those guys. But as of right now, it's looking really good. We've got a week to go, and we've said this before. It's like it's found money with this team and the way that they've been going recently and throughout the last month with the pitching injuries. And so the fact that we're doing so well and we're so far ahead, I think it's a really big credit to this pitching staff that I do want to talk about. So who do you want to talk about first? We'll get into Floaters and Flounderers later, but let's just kind of talk through. I think Logan Evans is a guy that he just had a really great start, so we can maybe touch on him. He's kind of a new face, and we can kind of talk about the other guys as we go.
Totally, yeah. And just as we get into this conversation, as you noted, we are currently missing, going into this season, I would have said 3 of our 4 best pitchers, with Bryce, with Logan, and with Kirby. So the fact that this has been now 6 straight games against high-powered offenses where the starter has allowed 1 or 0 earned runs through, 5 or 6 innings, is amazing. Really, really phenomenal stretch. And it's, obviously Woo's been awesome. We'll talk some more about Castillo, but Logan Evans is the one that I wanted to talk about. I brought this up because I don't really know much about this guy. I know he's like our number 10 prospect that we called up. 6'4", big body, 23 years old, young kid. And, he was awesome against the Padres in his start. 1 earned run allowed in 6 full innings, I believe it was.
Yep.
Yeah. Or 0 earned runs allowed in 6 full innings. But his baseball savant is very confusing. He's got a 2.57 ERA, which I think would slot in second or third on this roster behind the other Logan and Brian Wu. But his advanced statistics are not nearly as good. His expected ERA is like 4.7. So tell me, how excited should I be about the performances we've gotten out of Logan Evans this year?
I think Logan Evans as a pitcher is a guy who he is our number 10 prospect, but last season he was a guy that was like, hey, maybe this guy could get some spot starts if the team needs to kind of reset the rotation around the playoffs or whatever happens. And he didn't come up, and this season he's obviously had to because of injuries. But he's been kind of lightly ready for the last little bit to get a cup of coffee. And I think the ERA and expected ERA doesn't tell the full story. You look at his walks. He has not had a start that he hasn't walked somebody in, right? Every single start except for this one against the Padres where he only had 1 walk. He's had at least 2 walks and 3 in his first one, and he just doesn't strike out people, right? He's got 3 strikeouts and then 5 in that second start and then 3 and 3. Like, he's just a guy who makes people put the ball in play, and that can cause some issues when you're up against, like we talked about with the A's, a little bit more of a scrappy team, a team that wants to just swing at everything, put the ball in play. So, running into the Blue Jays at that time, it's like the Blue Jays are kind of a swing-happy team trying to find their stride, which makes sense that they kind of got the most of him. Same with the Rangers. This Rangers are still like, they're older veteran team, but they're capitalizing on mistakes and also a little swing-happy, trying to find their stride. The main thing that I see is his whip is slowly coming down, right? He's slowly figuring it out, how to limit hits. He's figuring out that, hey, his fastball is, and there's an article about this, his fastball is like not the pitch that's going to get a bunch of people out, but he has to use it to set up the rest of the hitters. Like, you can't just throw sliders and curveballs the entire time. Hitters will figure that out. And so in his most recent start, he was using his fastball a lot more. I think that was a Daniel Kramer article that came out. That was just, he's kind of one of the guys that's talking with the clubhouse throughout the season. So it's good to note that he's like making improvements, making adjustments, and we're seeing positive results. I think that's one of the things that's really encouraging about Evans. He doesn't throw hard. He's kind of the like Brian Wu light, where he's got a little bit more variety. And Brian Wu throws a lot of fastballs, but it's like we thought Brian Wu was the guy who was going to throw a lot of curveballs and sliders and stuff. And I think this is like Logan Evans is the guy that we're going to look at and say, hey, this is our next Marco Gonzalez 2.5. It's like, this is the best version of Marco Gonzalez that we could possibly look for, which is props to Logan Evans. At Marco Gonzalez's best, he was the Mariners' best pitcher, and he was doing good things. So I don't think he's a number 1, but I think he could slot in at that 4 spot at some point if we were to, have some more injury concerns or trade Bryce Miller or something.
Yeah. And those are good, calming statements. It's good. He's so young, there's tons of growth left to be found. And the sample size is tiny. He's had 4 starts this year. But I do just want to geek out a little bit over what I've seen. One is he's gone at least 5 innings in all of his 4 starts. And you're right, in some of them he's getting raked. He gave up 10 hits to the Rangers, 5 to the Blue Jays, and then 7 to the Padres, where he allowed 0 earned runs. Part of that is luck. It's when the hits come. It's, bad timing. It's, getting through 3 hits with 2 outs to load the bases and then getting that 3rd out. So, some of that's lucky. But I think it also shows me, to a relative sample, that he doesn't rattle, Often when, you give up 3 straight hits, it makes the next one more likely to be a hit. But the fact that he's allowed so few earned runs while allowing so many hits makes me feel pretty comfortable about how he handles bad stretches. I'm impressed that he's made it at least 5 in all those outings as a 23-year-old, getting called up into the big leagues. The other thing I've seen that's super encouraging to me personally is, and I'm sure over the course of his career this will get trimmed down, but he is currently a 6-pitch thrower. It's insane. Yeah. He throws 6 pitches 10% or more of the time. He really relies on his cutter, sweeper, sinker, four-seam, changeup, and curveball. He does them all. He's got great movement on all of them. His sinker, four-seam, and changeup are all located really tightly together, which is just makes them a deadly combination. I'm sure he'll probably give 1 or 2 of those up if he becomes a consistent starting pro. But I just think that's an awesome place to start of like, wow, he can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, he's got 6 pitches. He's throwing his curveball the least at 9% of the time. Like, that's a high percentage of the time. And the fact that he's got that variety is really nice. I actually think there's a case to be made that like he should be throwing all of these pitches even, once he gets here and is more consistent, because of the fact that his fastball is like a 94 miles per hour fastball. Like, it's nothing overpowering. And so with that, it comes like you need to throw the fastball, and it looks like it's actually more like 93, like even slower than you think it is.
Yeah.
But it's something that with a slower fastball, you do have to kind of throw everything at him. And the fact that he's using his cutter so much, and they'll trim that down, they'll adjust these numbers and figure out what works best for him. And, maybe they'll realize the changeup or whatever is a thing that hitters are picking up on. Lefties are just crushing. It's like there will be some stat that people figure out or the Mariners figure out, their pitching staff is like, hey, don't throw this anymore. Like, there's no reason to. It's not getting any outs. But for right now, I think he's figuring out, fine-tuning this repertoire of pitches, which I think is exactly what's needed from a guy who's just gotten 4 starts in the major leagues and is, at the end of the day, if the Mariners pitching staff can be healthy, a worthy trade piece at the very least, somebody who we could trade and actually get some value from, and he's showing it right now.
Yeah, maybe that's a Kuminga-like performance. It's like they're showing him off to boost that trade value. Don't look at his expected ERA. Look at his current ERA and try to maximize value. I'm okay with that as well. But yeah, just wanted to talk a little about Evans. He's been really awesome. I know we got good innings from Emerson Hancock. He got pulled after like 4, but again, some nice Hancock minutes, and then Wu and Castillo were the other 2 this week. Anything else you want to talk about with our starting rotation before we get into Floaters and Flounderers?
Just that I think Emerson Hancock, in terms of like order of who is producing for this team, I think it's probably Logan Evans is like that number 3 slot right now, and then it's Emerson Hancock, and then it's whoever else they're throwing, they can figure out to throw in that 5th spot.
Sure.
But he's just been a little underwhelming, and I think he has lost a lot of value over the last season and a half, but he's still a guy who is, our 6th starter if another guy gets injured and he has to take that 5th spot. Like, Logan Evans has proven himself that he could be in the big leagues, and in that way is a trade chip. I don't think Emerson Hancock is that at the moment. We'll see if that, if he makes those improvements, but I think he's just he's where he's at. Like, he's in my mind, Emerson Hancock has hit his point of like, this is what this guy is. There's not going to be a change. And so, we can be happy that we have him as our 6th, 7th guy, but that's just something that I wanted to note.
Yeah, he's more known, and in that way his flaws are just a little more apparent. But, he's still young. He can still improve. But, yeah, I completely agree with that, where if I could only keep one or the other, I would keep Logan, because there's a chance he could be something really good. And Hancock, I think his positive destiny is as a, 4th or 5th guy at best.
Yeah. All right. With that, is there anything else we wanted to touch on before we get into Floaters and Flounders?
No, let's dive in.
All right. With that, I'll give you the first one. We've been talking about pitching a lot, and I know you've got two non-pitchers, so you can start us off.
Yeah, I want to start with Mr. Big Body himself. We've talked about him before, but he's just been so awesome this year and just been doing everything I really want him to do that I think it's finally time to talk about him again, and that is Cal Raleigh Jr., Mr. Dumper himself. He's been awesome. He's up to 15 home runs on the year. He had 2 against the Padres in back-to-back games to open that series. His batting average is, all the way up to 245 now, batting 260 in the month of May. If he's batting 260 in any given month, he's hitting home runs and he's got his batting average up. He's checking all the boxes for me. He's been probably the most reliable offensive piece we've had this season. Now that Polanco's starting to come down to earth, Cal's still just being Cal. He's bringing it every week.
Yeah, the one thing and this is not a knock in saying that Cal is bad, but I think his defensive run stopping has been a little bit lackluster this season. He's just been a little slower. His pop time's a little slower. His throw's been a little off. He's just not as efficient, but at the same time, he's producing so much offensively that it's like, he's still probably the best catcher in baseball right now. And if Aaron Judge wasn't Aaron Judge, you could consider Cal Raleigh like an MVP candidate. So, I'm never going to complain about what he does defensively because no matter what, if he's producing this way offensively, like you just got to be happy with that. That being said, the guy is walking 15% of the time, right? The guy is striking out 26% of the time. Like the guy is doing everything that we ask of him and more. Like a 240 average right now for him is kind of insane. Like we had really thought that 230 was kind of his peak. And if he can continue this throughout the season, this guy will be a top 5 MVP finisher. His slugging is insane, right? It's at 560 right now. He's
on pace to shatter his home run record. He's on pace for like 45 home runs this year. Now
he's on pace for like over 50 home runs. Like they're only a quarter of the way through the season at this point. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's been monstrous. So I think it's also worth noting he's missed time each of the last 2 years. It's playing catcher is hard. Playing offense the way he plays is hard. So I would doubt if he finishes the year with close to 800 at bats. But he's been awesome so far. So 15 home runs already. I love him. His savant page is gross too. It's pretty red. Yeah, his catching has been a little iffy. That's been a good note. He missed a throw in the second Yankees game that almost costed them the game, where he had a guy dead to rights and just overthrew the ball. But honestly, I love a good defensive catcher, but I also love a catcher that's gonna lead the AL in home runs, except for maybe Judge. So, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, it can't go unstated that the fact that he's walked 30 times. He's walked more than JP. JP is like known as being the guy who gets on base, and Cal has walked more than him. So it's just like I don't think we're giving Cal enough credit. Like we all know that he's the MVP of this team, and we're still not doing enough to make sure that he knows it. Yeah, so that's a great floater.
And I think, people really just still think of Julio, and we'll talk about Julio a little later too, but they think of him as the MVP of this team. And man, like when he's on, there's nobody better, but he is such a inconsistent player. And what Cal has always been for this team, it seems like, is a guy that just brings it week to week. He's never going to hit 400 in a month. Like, that's not his game. He doesn't have those spikes the way that some of these players have, but he is just Mr. Consistent. And I think he's really the thing that keeps this offense moving and allows some of these other guys to be a little more explosive.
For sure. And, we're not going to talk about Randy a ton today, but Randy is like the fact that Cal is there provides Randy with a lot of comfort, I think, in the order.
Tons.
And he's performing super well because of that. So shout out to Randy along with that as well. I'm going to jump into our one flounderer of the day because we have to talk about him. We kind of lightly skipped over him last week, and we got a comment from PNW_Steph about Miles Mastrobuoni and Donovan Solano and how they need to be off the team. And in my mind, I was picturing the Miles Mastrobuoni who was hitting 300 and had a really great week against the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros in the month of April. That was a month and a half ago at this, or I guess a month ago, a little over a month ago. Since then, Mastroboni hit in the month of April 200, and in the month of May 189. We're just looking at batting averages right now. OPS of 543 and 427 in those months respectively. He's just fallen off, right? He's just like there. I think he really capitalized on the early time when the Mariners were doing well against their rivals, and so it seems like Mastroboni was, has been really solid. But he's an everyday player right now, and is a guy who is hitting. It says 272 right now. I guess in 2025 it says 272, or that's his OBP. Sorry,
yeah, he's 205 right now.
He's 205 right now. He's gotten so much lower than you think. And he's just not hitting. He's got 7 hits in 15 games in the month of May. He's played 15. He's played every single day in the month of May, and he's gotten 7 hits in 37 at bat. It's just like the guy has not been performing. And defensively, he's a utility player. He can play any position. If anybody needs a break, it's great. But he just doesn't provide any offensive value. And I think we're seeing that come to fruition right now with the Mariners and them still performing without his production. It's like, this is a guy who we never expected to perform, and when he does, it's great. But like, this is somebody who is almost, in my mind, I'm realizing almost to the level of Donovan Solano, but more like a Mitch Garver of last year in my head.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing I would say is don't discount his defensive, flexibility. I think he's been really nice for us to be able to slot in different spots and kind of do whatever we need him to do. But offensively, yeah, it's everything, and all the evidence is pointing in the same direction. He's got a 241 slugging. He's generating no power. He's got 3 extra base hits on the year, and they're all doubles. If you look at his hit spray chart, it's unbelievable. Like, he doesn't get balls deep. All of the singles he hits barely get out of the outfield. He's got 1 ball that made it truly deep, and it was a double off the wall. Everything else is like the first baseman could probably jog backwards and catch it over his head. So he's got no drive. He's got no real pop. It's really come apart for him. A classic case of early success being overexposed and just completely crumbling. There was a moment where he was batting 318, and he's all the way down to 205. That tells you how bad it's been in the short term. So, yeah, ugly for Mastroboni. Too bad. Another former Cub coming over and struggling for the Mariners. I do hate to see it, but I don't know what the encouraging thing would be other than you can slot him in various defensive situations.
I think at the end of the day, he's going to be our 25th, 26th man. Like, it's like, he will, we'll get rid of Donovan Solano before we get rid of Miles Mastroboni. Once we realize that he's not this everyday player, once we get Luke Raley back, once, we kind of build around the team again, get that foundation ready, Mastroboni will fall to the wayside. He'll be a once every 3 days player. So that's what we'll see.
Totally. All right, well, after that negative talk, which was well-deserved, we almost should have talked about him last week, but I'm going to get positive, and I'm going to get funky and talk about a guy we may have mentioned only in passing so far on this podcast, but somebody that's becoming quickly a fan favorite in Seattle, and that is first baseman Rowdy Tellez. We were watching him make a good defensive play against the Yankees, me and my girlfriend, in that first Yankees game, and she's Mexican, and she was like, why are they pronouncing it Tellez? It's definitely Tellez because it's the double L's. That's a great point. Like, I'm really curious if we've all just, been collectively deciding to mispronounce his name, but everyone says Tellez.
I mean, he's from California, so you got to kind of assume. I don't know. I don't know where in California, but
I'm assuming he's Hispanic with that last name. So whether or not
we'll have to do some research, and we'll get back to everybody on that next week.
Maybe that's the Irish people dropping the O's off their name. That's the Hispanic immigrant being like, it's Tellez, it's Tortilla. He has been awesome in the month of May. He's been really, really good. He's coming off, he was batting 125 in March. He was batting 163 in April. He's all the way up to 244 in May. And more than that, his slugging, he has been cranking it up. He had 4 home runs in April. He already has 4 so far in the month of May. He's just been generating way more power than I think we would have expected. He's slugging .471 currently. He's got 8 home runs on the year. Yeah, his defense at first base has been okay. He's in the first percentile in baseball in running, which I think surprises no one.
The man's a speed demon. What can I say?
But he's been barreling the hell out of the ball and generating a ton of power. And as far as I'm concerned, it's all been found money there at first base. 8 home runs from this guy.
Yeah, this is the classic case of John is being turned into a data guy, right? This is like, oh, this guy has a 196 average on the season, and John is like, oh, but he's hit home runs, he's got a nice OPS. It's like, John, I hit you with this bug, and I just want to look at it from a little bit more of an unbiased perspective. He's kind of the Daniel Vogelbach of this team right now, where it's like he's the big guy we all love when he hits dingers. He's walking 6.3% of the time. Like, he doesn't walk ever. He's got a 26% strikeout rate. Like, he's doing basically the 3 true outcomes perspective without one of the outcomes. It's like the guy is just hitting home runs or striking out. I guess he does fly out a decent amount. But the guy, he's a guy who definitely generates power and is there for that. He's not going to be hitting in the top 4 spots of the lineup. But
no,
I just want to note that his on-base percentage is .260. Like, Cal is hitting .240 and his on-base percentage is .260 with batting average sub 200. His slugging is great, but that is, in my mind, that is where OPS kind of falters a little, and where I revert to the old man of me that's like, hey, we need some more singles. A guy that is never on base, besides when he hits home runs, doesn't provide value to other hitters, and that's my main concern. But he's still performing well. Obviously, in terms of floaters, like, he's doing great in the month of May, and so we'll shout him out for that. But I want to, looking long term, he is not going to be like a solution at first base. He is going to be the guy who gets put at that 25th man spot and is one ahead of Miles Mastrobuoni and gets pinch hitting spot shots.
We are all excited for him to no longer be a big part of this offense. The idea isn't that, oh, this guy's going to be Cal Raleigh in a couple of years. He's 30. The fact that he's doing this is impressive, but there's no doubt for what we were expecting. This dude is absolutely floating. In the month of May, 244, 300 on base, 556 slugging. He is slugging like mad this month. So, yeah. Would I be surprised if all those numbers get cut in half in June? Absolutely not. But this guy is on cloud 9 right now, and he deserves the shout out.
Yes, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We'll give Rowdy the shout out. I was going to say something else, but I forgot what it was. So I guess I could just move on unless you got one more thing to say.
No, that's it. Take us where we need to go.
All right. Let me bring you to the promised land that is Luis Castillo's last 2 starts. Right? He's a glorious guy. He's got glorious locks. But listen, 6 innings, giving up 6 hits and 1 earned run against the New York Yankees. Let me just offer that one up, and then let me follow that one up with 7 innings, 3 hit ball, no earned runs against one of the worst teams in baseball in the White Sox. But nevertheless, that is 1 earned run over 13 innings, and Luis Castillo's WHIP has dropped to 1.26 after it was at its highest 1.59. He's obviously getting that down, 2 back-to-back quality starts. And he had a really good start against the Rangers that was interrupted by a tough one against the Blue Jays in that sweep. But overall, we kind of talked about him last week in the sense of he's not performing in how we expect Luis Castillo to perform. And maybe that's something that he's fallen off a little bit for. But, and you look at his baseball savant and you're like, how is this guy getting any value? Because he's basically kind of all blue, all subpar when it comes to exit velocities, K rates, things like that. But the man just induces contact and is able to, with his fastball in kind of how he's improved over the course of the season, he's just getting better and better. And we got to shout him out as a floater for sure right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. He's been awesome. And yeah, it has been more than just this last week. If you exclude that bad Blue Jays outing, which, I know it's there, but if you exclude it, in his last 4 starts, he's made it at least 6 full innings and allowed 1 or fewer earned runs in each of those outings. So 4 of his last 5 have been excellent, with 1 tough one against the Jays mixed in there. His ERA is creeping back down to an area we're more comfortable with. He's down to 3.2. His whip is dropping, his fastball is looking sharper, and you know what? That's that's these guys, as these fastball pitchers get older, it's not like their fastball just decreases over the course of the entire year. What happens is you just start to see the start of their year and end of their year get worse. And it's almost like two bars, coming towards the middle. But that middle is always great. Those guys maintain that until eventually the middle's gone and they're out of the MLB. But I think what we're seeing is Castillo, entering that period of the season where it's like, okay, no, I've been warming up. I've been doing this. My body feels good. And he's going to be old school Luis Castillo, maybe until, August, September, in which case I expect to see him start to slide down again as, age and wear start to affect his season a little bit. But that's, to be expected of a guy at his age. And to see him enter this zone has been awesome. He's been locked in.
Yeah, it's almost like he's a warm weather pitcher and the Mariners picked him up. So it's like
who'd have thought? It's been a beautiful May. That's all I'll say.
No, I 100% agree with you. The other thing about Luis is he's just like, when he has a bad start, it's kind of a blow up start. Like it's going to be 5 runs. It's not going to be a start where he gives up 3 or 4. Like it's going to be 5, 6. And that's kind of what sets his ERA in such like a weird limbo where it's like, it'll shoot up and then he has to bring it back down and it'll shoot up again and he has to bring it back down. Like that's just how Luis Castillo has been every year when he's been with the Mariners. So it's just something to note that he's in kind of one of those grooves right now that we've seen, and it's coming at the perfect time because, as we've said a million times, his pitching staff is a little worse for the wear, and it is returning, but it's nice that we've gotten 4 really great starts out of Castillo over the last couple weeks. So we got to shout him out while we can because we're going to get these other pitchers back, and we're going to see them, and we're going to be like, oh, look at our little babies that we've been missing for so long. But we can't forget that Luis Castillo helped set up this great run that the Mariners have been on, and got to shout him out.
Yep, well said. Yeah, he's been really awesome. Okay, well, that's our floaters and flounderers, but there's just one more guy I wanted to mention in terms of individual performance. Obviously, the offense in general has been playing well recently, but I do think we need to call out Julio. We were talking about him as a guy that has his ups and downs, but May has been an up, no doubt. He was batting .202 in April. He's batting .290 in the month of May. 485 slugging. He's already hit 4 home runs. He's been back and consistent in a big way, and I just want to shout him out and say we appreciate him, and if he keeps it up, he'll be a floater one of these days too.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to really add. I just, Julio's grand slam yesterday was awesome. And hopefully that kicks off another stretch where he's just, on an MVP type levels. And we'll see what happens here, especially with the Houston Astros coming up. And then other than that, it's a light. I want to say it as emphasize this. It's a light cakewalk. Like the Nationals are not great. The Twins are not great. The Orioles are not great. The Angels are not great. And then we get to Arizona, who's better. But it's like that's 4 straight series of very, very winnable series.
Absolutely.
So that's exciting.
Arizona's barely above 500. Obviously, they're playing in the toughest division in baseball, but it is getting easier considering we just played, the Yankees and we just played the Padres and we're going to play the Astros. It will get easier. So I agree with you there.
Yep. All right. Let's take this opportunity to jump to our very own Seattle Storm. John, you really want to talk about the Storm today, so I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this. They're 1-1, and they just beat Dallas and Paige Buchers, whatever it is. Lost to the Mercury, and they play the Mercury again later this week. But other than that, tell me how you've been feeling about the Storm in general. What have you seen?
Yeah, I'm a little confused, and I think I need to see more, and I need to know a little bit more. So, yeah, season opened with them getting stomped by the Mercury, and then they had a nice win yesterday against the Wings, 1-1 on the year. The positives have been, the vets have been excellent. Skylar Diggins-Smith is leading the team in points and assists. She's 21 points, 6.5 assists. Onyeka Ogumwike has 17.5 points and 12.5 rebounds per game. So those two have really been headlining and pushing this team. Ogumake. I always pronounce it. I always want to try to pronounce it more complicated, but I always hear them just say Ogumake on the casts. Maybe I just need to settle in. Onyeka Ogumake. But I think the big question for me is I don't think this team is very good. considering we lost arguably our best player last year in Jewel Lloyd. And we did that to get draft capital and go and sign Dominique. I'm just a little confused about the direction of this team because, and here's my big point. Dominique was drafted, Dominique Malanga, the number 2 pick in the draft. She's 19 years old. She's the youngest player ever drafted into the WNBA. Very young, very raw, but she hasn't really been playing. She's gotten 5.5 minutes per game, 2 points per game in that time, but just hasn't really been getting any run. Now, my question is this Storm team trying to be competitive? Because if they are, I understand why she's not playing, but do you really think you can be with this roster? And then if they're not trying to be competitive, why isn't she getting more run? Because it seems like, I'm sure she's young and raw and needs time to develop, and I'm totally comfortable with that, but why not get her out on the court and get her some experience in real games to help her development?
So I look at this team and I'm trying to find a comparison. Maybe it's kind of like the Warriors right now, and the Warriors are not going to trade Steph Curry. They're probably not going to trade Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green. Like they might trade Draymond, who knows? But like they're an older team that is at this point not going to win a championship. Should they be selling their assets at a certain point in the season, right before the trade deadline, when they're the most valuable and they can be added to teams that have, are going to want to win and they can get draft picks or whatever it is for them? Yes, they won't because they're the Warriors and they love Steph Curry. But it's like that's kind of where the Storm is at right now. And in that way, Dominique is a little bit like Jonathan Kuminga. We're going to talk about Kuminga again. But I think it's that sense of like, Dominique is so young and so raw, and this team still thinks that they can win currently. But I think over the course of this season, they will do exactly what you said. They will underperform. They'll be a sub 500 to 500 level team, and in a league that is 13 teams, and if you're they're going to make the playoffs. Like that's just kind of how the Storm are going to be. Like they're going to be a top 8 team, and they're going to make the playoffs. I do. And I think that's the concern is like when you're at that level, you're going to be the 7, 8, maybe the 6 seed, who knows? But it's like when you're going to be that level, you kind of have to be ready to go all in because you're going to be in the playoffs. Like there's a chance that you could win. And that's why they're probably not playing Dominique is they want to build at least a little bit of a cache of wins. But I think as the season goes on, we'll see them really hover around that 500 level. Dominique will get a little bit more playing time as the season goes along. But like you said, she's 19. She's super young. And most players have been in college ball for at least 4 years when they make it to the WNBA. It's like Dominique is so fresh that she really just needs some time to play in the system, and I think we'll see some improvement from there.
It is interesting. It's worth, and this is totally to be expected. Literally, youngest player ever drafted. She's big. She's getting the Victor Wembanyama comps because she's huge. She's, she dunks the ball, which is an incredibly rare thing in women's basketball, but she's also got kind of like guard skills with her handle and shooting. So, the fact that she might still need a lot of development in those various areas as a 19-year-old is not a surprise. But yeah, it is just a little concerning to me. I will just say it's, we weren't really talking about her in the pre-draft prospect, conversations. I was really looking at, Kiki Irafin out of USC, who has been awesome. She's averaging like 14.5 points and 12 rebounds in her first 2 games. So I hope they start giving her a run because I don't want there to be, bust rumors circling. I also just think, why is this team trying to be competitive? These next 2 or 3 drafts out of women's college basketball are going to be awesome and stacked with talent. Do we not want a shot at Juju? What my hope is, if the team's really kind of thinking about the future, and this is kind of where we started the season, I kind of hope they're just like letting Skylar and Nyeka just absolutely dominate and run the show and basically saying like, hey, who's a piece away? And then are potentially trying to move those 2 players because they're both in their mid to late 30s. They're not going to be part of the next generation. I feel very comfortable saying they won't have a chance to accomplish anything great in Seattle just because they don't have the cast around them. It's not that they're not great players, but they're too old and don't have the cast around them to carry this team to something special. So I would really hope that we'd consider moving those two, getting more draft assets, and then, kind of bottoming out to try to get one of these generational talents coming out of the college game in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think it can't be understated how much college women's basketball and the WNBA is like a real pipeline. Like the players that come out of college basketball right now are ready to play in the WNBA, and it's not always like that in all sports, but in women's basketball it is. And so Dominique, not having had any of that experience and being, playing in leagues overseas and for the last couple of years, but it's so dissimilar to where the level of play the WNBA is at. Like we can say, oh, she was playing in these French leagues, but it's like the level of play there is not even as good as the college basketball. And most of these players are coming in having 4 years in college basketball. So it's like, we really have to give her some time to develop. And I do agree with you that like they should be going for these next couple of drafts, trying to get players that will be able to play with Dominique. But she is definitely a project when it comes to
and that's well said. Yeah, I think we have a tendency of that basketball is becoming so international in the men's game, where it's like, oh, Luka was playing in, competitive Croatian leagues. Like, oh, he's the real deal at 18. But I think the women's game, while it's really trying to grow internationally, and I'm sure it will over the next decade, it does not compare to women's college basketball. So that's a very good point. And I'll just say, man, I'll just nerd out for a second. I watched the Fever Sky game last week.
One of the 2.7 million, man. There were so many people watching that game.
And Caitlin was unbelievably good. And some of the passes she was making and her shooting, like she is like, it's just so obvious what she's going to be for the next decade. It's insane. And it's just the idea of like that number 1 overall pick was worth 10 number 1 overall picks. And I think like Juju has a chance to be a similar type of like immediate, oh my God, superstar in the WNBA. And just the idea of like, oh no, we're kind of trying to be, a little bit competitive for our fans these next couple of years. It's almost like irresponsible to not, with the WNBA being in the position where it is, where you've got these real stars coming in, and because there's still some, talent deficiencies on certain teams, if you get one of the real stars, you're immediately one of the best teams in the league. It's kind of irresponsible to not be doing everything you can to try to get your hands on one of those players. So again, Skylar and Nyeka are both awesome. I would like to see them on teams where their awesomeness can contribute to trying to win a WNBA championship. That's not on the Storm, and if anything, they might hurt our chances to get a generational piece. So we'll see where the season goes. Those are my, little bit pessimistic takes on wanting this team to tank a little bit, but I want to see Juju in green. That's where I'm at.
That's fair. Juju's 2 years away, I will say. This next season, I think it's going to be an Olivia. It's Olivia Miles, I think, out of Notre Dame, or maybe she transferred, but I think that's probably number 1 pick territory, and I think there's a lot of bigs that are coming out this next season.
Sure.
So we'll see, and in that sense, we don't necessarily need a big. But playing for 2 seasons away, I think is where we're at. I'm sure that we'll trade Diggins. Ogumike is what you said the broadcast has been saying. So
I always want to say like Agumike, but I don't think that's right. I think it's just Ogumike. Maybe that's what we've decided to settle on. Similar to Rowdy Tellez, maybe we've just decided Ogumike is okay.
But yeah, 2 years out from Juju, and we can cross our fingers. I think we'll be at a great point to be able to go for that draft pick. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's been 45 minutes, and we don't want to talk your ear off. So I think this is the perfect time for us to sign off for the day. We will get to more Seahawks discussion as we go, but it's out there. We're not, the Seahawks are not going anywhere. They're not in the middle of a season or anything. These talking points that we have, we'll talk about them later. Anything you want to say before we sign out, John?
Yeah, just what you're talking about. We're going to do a big division preview, but probably going to take more time than what we want to spend on this individual podcast. So look forward to that. That will be fun. Last thing to note, and it might be the last time I note them in a while because they broke my heart wide open. Sounders, they did lose that matchup against LA 4-0, and then they went ahead.
I wasn't going to talk about it.
And then they tied the Timbers 1-1. And I was like, they lost the game, and I was like, okay, they can get me back if we beat our rivals, and then that was a tie. So it's I'm just kind of out right now, but that did happen.
Yeah, I didn't put it in the notes because I was like, John won't want to talk about that.
Yeah, that is me.
But for John Carey, I'm Tyler Cartwright, and this has been the Sound Up Seattle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode of Sound Up Seattle, please feel free to give us a like on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, wherever you're watching and or listening. You can find Sound Up Seattle on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, all at Sound Up Seattle, all lowercase, all one word. You can also email us your questions, comments, concerns, more discussion about Miles Master Baloney in our comments section. We always love that. And you can find me, Tyler, at TyCart50, everywhere it's important. John, where can they find you?
Just grinding through the Dawnguard expansion on Skyrim, man. These vampires, I swear to God, they have it coming, so I'm going to let them have it.
Still in his Skyrim phase, same as last week. We love it. All right, with all that being said, let's go Storm. I'll hit the Storm.
But see, I kind of want them to fail, so I'll say go Nerds.